Good day. This is Lateesha Hinton with Soul Spread Wisdom. I would like to wish you all a happy new year. Today, as I am recording, it is January 3rd, 2021. And today, I just really want to focus on the movement of Mars because it's really significant. So for the last 6 months, we have been experiencing Mars transiting his own sign in his own home in the sign of Aries. And so January 7th, he will make the shift and move over into the sign of Taurus. So his home sign, Mars is at home in Aries and in the sign of Scorpio. So if he is at home in Scorpio, when he moves into the sign of Taurus, he is considered in detriment or in exile. So he's in exile far away from home. So Mars, of course, is the god of war. He rules knives and cutting and separating. So when he enters into Taurus, he is entering into the home of Venus. So Venus, it will be hosting Mars. So she will bring to Mars her gifts in order for him to operate. So what does that look like when Mars is in exile away from his home in the sign of Scorpio in an opposite position, 180 degrees away from home? So he is in earth. He's in solid earth as opposed to water. A Taurus, of course, Venus is home of Taurus. She wants peace and diplomacy and calmness and steadiness. Of course, Taurus, being a fixed sign, as is Scorpio, is a sign that is, once it is set on doing something, that's the way it is going. That's what it's doing. And so with Mars here, the good side is that when Mars starts something in the sign of Taurus, that's the way that Mars will be going. You know, that's the way that it's moving. But Mars in the sign of Taurus can disrupt the peacefulness that is associated with the Taurian energy. You know, it is not so much peace-loving in the sign of Taurus. So Mars in Taurus can be very argumentative. It can be, again, disruptive of the peace. It can be bullish, if you will. You know, it can be a bully. It can be... there can be this anger, you know, that comes forth in a very powerful way in the sign of Taurus. That can be separative. That can be separating. So when we have Mars here, as we were excited that Mars is leaving the sign of Aries because we know that Mars was making lots of squares while he was in the sign of Aries. He made squares to Pluto that was in Capricorn. He made squares to Saturn that was in Capricorn. And he made squares to Jupiter that was in Capricorn. Well, so as we were celebrating this change, now as he shifts over, he will make a square to Saturn and Jupiter that are now in the sign of Aquarius. So, you know, we have been excited and celebrating the fact that Saturn and Jupiter left the sign of Capricorn because it was so challenging, and understand that Saturn and Jupiter are in a better place than they were in the sign of Capricorn, making the squares to Mars in Aries. Well, now Mars is in exile and will be making these squares. So in fixed energy. So when they were making the squares before from Aries to Capricorn, it was in cardinal energy, which is very powerful. But the fixed energy, there is more combustion, that happens with the fixed squares, because the squares take on the energy of Mars, takes on the nature of Mars. So there is, a confrontational energy automatically with Mars in the sign of Taurus. It's confrontational, just as it stands. But then making the square to Saturn in the sign of Aquarius, there is this friction and confrontation about, the things that we want to hold on to wherever this is in your chart. And I'm going to go through all 12 signs. But where the fixed signs are in our charts, it represents the places where it is more difficult for us to change, more difficult for us to move. But when we have the square challenging these fixed natures within us, it is causing us to struggle about a change that needs to be made between the Taurus area that's within our charts and the Aquarian area that's within our chart. And so one side, of course, will win. One side will win this particular battle. And so as Mars is making this square to Saturn, we're making hard decisions about what has been stable, what has been the way that we wanted it to be. But now there is this question about what needs to move. What needs to move? What action, Mars, what action needs to happen so that peace can be found. Wherever Saturn is, we are slow to move. We don't want to move. And being with Saturn in air, ideas, ideology, perhaps about giving and sharing in the sign of Aquarius, about, where we want to give of ourselves in this area. And, there is this challenge, within us as far as resources, because Taurus has to do with resources. So a challenge perhaps of where we want to share our resources and where we don't want to, where we want to hold on to what has been normal. But Saturn and Mars coming into the square are demanding change, are demanding that we see things in a different way. And so surely it will probably be brought to us from the outside, someone challenging what it is that we have been holding on to, what it is that we have been refusing to let go of. So Mars will transit through the sign of Taurus for about 3 weeks before he moves into the sign of Gemini. And so while he is making this transit, he will also make a conjunction with Uranus, whereas Uranus right now is at 7 degrees retrograde. So within the next couple of weeks, he will make this conjunction with Uranus. And at the same time, there will be the square with Saturn and Jupiter, in the sign of Aquarius. So this is combustible energy. It is the change that has to happen, the fireworks within that which has been just stable and being still. And I'm just reminded of, the bull that is in the ring, and he's being prodded and he's being poked by the matador. And then he loses it. Then he explodes and he sees red and he charges with the horns. And, ultimately, the matador's life is in danger. The matador's life is in danger. So there is this challenge, this bullish challenge that comes up with this particular energy. The conjunction to Uranus, where Uranus is about rebellion and a disruptive change. So Mars coming with Uranus in the sign of Taurus will be bringing, disruptive change in this area of your life where you have Taurus in your chart. So I'm just gonna run through all of the signs. So we start with Aries. So for Aries, this is happening in your Aries rising, Aries sun. This is happening in your second house. So we're looking at income. So you have Taurus in the second house. We're looking at income that is being changed for you. And you have Aquarius in the 11th house. So it's going to be some link between the groups that you are a part of and income, where there is a radical combustible change that happens. I think I talked about this in my Saturn, the video about Saturn transiting over. But this could look like for you, if you were a part of a group, if you are a part of a group, part of a church, and your income might be linked to this group or to this church or a group project that you are involved in. And if that be the case, something combustible could happen as it relates to the group of people or friends that you network with, and it can cause a huge change to your income, to your work, to your resources that you bring in, the money that you earn. So it could be linked to that. Some information coming to you that is shocking and it is disruptive and it causes, combativeness to come about. Then when we move over to the sign of Taurus, this will be in your first house. So for Taurus rising, Taurus sun, we're looking at this energy of Mars, and then of course Mars coming into contact with Uranus and making the square to Saturn. This is happening in your 10th house of career. So this is huge. It's your angular houses that are being affected by this. Really all year long, you will be experiencing this energy of Mars making, Uranus will be making the square to Saturn. But so there will be a lot of change that will be happening for you this year as it relates to your career and where you are moving your life forward to. Your reputation in the world, to going through change and major transition throughout this year. So Mars being here can bring up this particular frustration, making this square to Saturn as it relates to maybe your boss or someone in management, as it relates to your career, and you having to make a change and make a decision about where it is that you are going and what it is that you need to be doing as it relates to your career, or a change just in what it is that you are doing that changes your reputation in the world, how you are presented to the world. And so, Mars coming into this square is bringing a requirement for you to make a change. Like, I can no longer do this anymore. I can no longer stay in this. I can no longer work with this manager anymore. I can no longer just continue to do this because of the level of frustration. That change is here and it has to be made. So either it will be made by you or it will be made by another. But change is here at the door. And then when Mars comes in contact with Uranus there in your first house, that much more explosive change can happen, and frustration can happen because it will also be involved with the square to Saturn and Jupiter. So it's important. It's important for all of us to remember that we are not puppets to the planet, because, again, Mars in the sign of Taurus can be very volatile. And I know that people think of Taurus as this very peaceful sign, and it is. It is. But Mars is here. Mars is here. And Mars can cause the bull to be enraged. Can cause the bull to be enraged. And before you know it, you might have said something and done something that you might regret terribly. So just remember that we are not puppets to the planets, but beware and expect that there will be a lot of volatile energy and change that will be necessary for you to make. But hold on to your peace. Hold on to your peace and hold on to your steadiness, so that when you make the changes, they won't be filled with so much regret that could come about just based out of anger and frustration. Okay, and then when we move over to Gemini, this Mars will be in your 12th house. Mars will be in your 12th, and Saturn is in your 9th for Gemini rising. So for you, when Mars transits the 12th house, it is really a restless time. It's a time where you can have so much loss of sleep because your mind is just going. It's fighting, even as you try to rest. It's fighting. There is anger. There can be hidden anger, hidden reasons for anger that could come to the forefront about spirituality. Maybe things that you were taught. We're talking about the square to Saturn that's in the 9th house. Beliefs, gurus and teachers that you could have had. And then there's a frustration that could come up about what it is that you were taught and what it is that you believed in. And you took it to heart, and then you began to see that some things are not right in what you've been taught. And this could be a situation where you are a part of a church or a part of a temple or, some belief system or religion where you just, there's a level of frustration that comes up just because you're unsettled in your spirit and in your soul about the way that things are. It's just not looking right. It's not feeling right. And so in that frustration, you realize I've got to make a change. It's not working here. This belief is not working for me. So I need to make some changes. It's critical that I make some changes in what it is that I hold as true for me spiritually and religiously. And with that, again, change has to happen. Foreign travel is a part of the 9th house as well. So it could be that, you desire to travel for spiritual purposes. But then there is a challenge that comes to that. But, when there is the challenge, when there is the square, that's when we really get things done, because it brings such a level of frustration that we have to do something. We have to move our lives forward by any means necessary. And so when we have this square coming from the 12th to the 9th, this is oftentimes what we will see. And then with Uranus, when Mars comes to Uranus, and then there is the square. So there is just a lot of combustibility that can happen for you, Gemini. I would definitely suggest, and this is for anyone who is listening, but for you in particular, because I understand how, the 12th house can bring so much anxiety and so much fear, and especially when we are dealing with this type of energy, Mars and Uranus in the 12th house. It may be best advisable that if you are a person who is prone to drinking caffeine, this may be a time that you want to settle that and then get you some soothing herbs some calming herbs that can just help you relax at this time. You could maybe try some supplements like magnesium. You can work with herbs like skullcap or mugwort to just help calm your mind. You can drink those teas and they can just help you relax at night, because this year will definitely be one that can cause lots of anxiety because of Uranus being in the 12th house, the squares that it will be in with Saturn and Jupiter. So this will be a really, really nice year for you to get to know the teas, the calming herbs, okay? So then when we move over to Cancer. So Cancer, this will be for you. You will have Mars in the 11th. Saturn and Jupiter will be in the 8th. So this will definitely be a time where there could be something that is happening with the groups that you are part of. Mars in the 11th house and Taurus, the groups that you are a part of. There can be a level of frustration. If you're part of a church, just this frustrating energy that is there. Lots of angst, lots of upset, lots of change that needs to happen. And it may be linked to resources. It may be linked to how you see that they are taking up tithes and offerings, or how they are dealing with the money and the resources. And or if you are someone, you may have put your money in a pool, a lottery pool. And then you find out that things were not handled correctly. There may have been some deception, 8th house, hidden things. There may have been, some sub-level things going on with the money. And then you find out, and then there is a level of frustration that happens with the group that you are a part of. There can be, if you are part of a group where you are studying esoteric things, there can be some frustration that is a part of that. And then you decide that you need to leave the group, but some change needs to happen. Some change needs to happen as it relates to groups that you are part of and the resources. And ultimately the change will happen because it will be so frustrating for you. And then when we move over to Leo, so Leo, this is a very serious time for you because these are happening in the angular houses. So Mars will be in your 10th house of your reputation in the world, your career. And Mars will be there making a square to Saturn and Jupiter that are in your 7th house. So the 7th house, of course, has to do with partners, spouses, anyone that you are partnering with, business partners, contracts, and so forth. So this Mars coming in here can cause this, combustible energy, this frustrating energy to happen with you and your partner as it relates to your career. If you are married, there can be tension between your partner and your career, and you needing to make a decision about what it is that you want to do. You may have to make a choice about what you need to provide, maybe to your marriage. Maybe you're spending too much time in your career, with your career and your career objectives, and so you're not able to nurture the relationship. And so all of this comes to the forefront, and you have to make a decision because of the level of frustration that could be happening between you and your partner. If you're partnering with someone business-wise, there could be this level of frustration about what is being given to the business, and how is the business serving your career, and how is the partner or the partnership or the contract that you have signed, how is it supporting your business, or is it supporting your business, or do you need to make a change? Something needs to change because it's not working. That is this Mars square Saturn, Jupiter. And then when Mars comes to Uranus, it can be just very combustible. The change that needs to happen, your career could suddenly change. What you are doing in the world could just suddenly change because of this level of frustration It could suddenly change. And then, as it relates to your relation, your reputation in the world could suddenly change. You could suddenly be married, or you could suddenly be divorced because of this powerful energy that is involved here. Okay. And then when we move over to Virgo. So Virgo, you will be having Mars in your ninth house. Mars and Uranus are in your ninth in the sign of Taurus. And then you have Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius, and Jupiter in the sixth house. So for you, this is your religious beliefs and your daily activity. How are your activities, the way that you are taking care of your health, the way that you are taking care of your spirituality or your religious beliefs? Is it working for you? Are your spiritual teachers, your gurus, what it is that they are teaching you, is it supportive of your physical health and your daily activities and your routines? And so all of this will come into question. Or if you need to take foreign travel, your daily activities, do they support that? Will you be able to go? Do you have, we have the coronavirus, the pandemic is happening. So sixth house, are there health concerns that could keep you from doing the traveling that you want to do? Are your health concerns, are they causing you to make changes in your religious beliefs and your religious practices? Sixth house, your practices. So, the sixth house is very challenging. There's a Martian energy, a Mars warrior energy that is associated with the sixth house, which is a sacrifice, painful sacrifice that is associated with the sixth house. So making the square to the Mars, Saturn in the sixth, Jupiter in the sixth, making the square to Mars in the ninth house, brings this level of frustration and angst up from within you about what it is that you need to do, the way you need to change your health, and it's linked to your religious beliefs. So you will see this happening for you. Then when we move over to Libra, so Libra, you will have Mars and Uranus are in Taurus in your eighth house, and Saturn and Jupiter are in your fifth house in Aquarius. So the fifth house is linked to children and joy and giving birth, and creativity, all of the joyous and joyful things that are in the life. But we have Saturn that is here. Jupiter is here helping out with Saturn. So with Saturn being here, there can be restrictions with the square to Mars in the eighth. And the eighth house is oftentimes associated with the support that we receive from other people, resources. So it could be that with your children, there are some challenges maybe with your children receiving financial aid, or some resources that you were receiving from your children. Maybe if you were an older person and your children help you financially, there can be some kind of a challenge, or some kind of frustration, or some kind of battle in this area. But it causes something to change. Or your child could be going through a particular battle about receiving resources. If there could be some issue with child support, you should have been receiving the child support, and you thought it was going to come through, but then there is another battle. There is another step that has to be taken. You may need to, get an attorney. You may have to do extra paperwork. You may have to step it up. There's more that you need to do in order to push this thing through, so that you can have what it is, so you can have the child support that you need. It could show up in a way like that. If you want to have children, you are looking to get pregnant at this time, there may be some extra steps that need to be taken in order for you to be able to get pregnant at this time. Okay, so it could show up in this particular way. If you were looking to get some support for something that you were creating, if you were looking to get a grant or something because you're an artist and you were looking for grant money, there could be a challenge, or there could be a battle in order for you to receive that money. Okay, so these are just some of the ways that it can show up with the 5th and 8th. Okay, then when we move over to Scorpio, again, we're talking about an angular house and an angular energy. So this is really important for you this particular year. Life-changing, life-altering. So you have Saturn, Scorpio rising, you have Saturn and Jupiter in your 4th house of family and home and where you live and your ancestral lineage and your father and family, home life, making a square to Mars that is in your area of relationships. Uranus is there as well. So for you, much change will be happening for you as it relates to your home and partnerships and relationships. There can be challenges that come about the home, about moving, about daily life with your partner. Making a decision about where to live, or changes that need to happen within your home. It could be just as simple as buying a new couch, some level of frustration about buying new furniture within the house, and you're not able to really agree upon what needs to happen, and then but a decision must be made. And so there can be a back and forth and a level of frustration about how to move. Saturn is here, so bringing a blockage. And so this is something that will need to be overcome for you. It can also show up in a way of your family members. There can be anyone living in the home. There can be frustration that could be happening in partnership. If you have some repairs or anything that needs to be done in the home, so you've contracted with a plumber to fix the pipes, and there could be a level of frustration that happens with this Mars making a square to Saturn, and things should flow smoothly, but it's blocked, and there's a level of frustration because of this particular square. It could show up that way. If you work from home, if your business is worked at home, there could be a level of frustration with your clients that you have as you are working from home. Okay, so that is for Scorpio rising. And then when we move over to Sagittarius, you're going to have Mars in the 6th house. Mars and Uranus are in the 6th. And then you will have Saturn and Jupiter in the 2nd house. So there are challenges, coming from the people that you work with on a daily basis, probably co-workers, or if you own your own business, the people that work for you. There can be challenges and frustration that come up, and then it affects your income. You can just experience frustration really with the people that you work with, the people that you work with on a daily basis. There's like some kind of a combative energy, and it affects your income. Perhaps you should have received the raise. You should have received the raise, but because your coworker didn't turn in everything on time, it caused you not to be able to receive that bonus. Or maybe you should have received that promotion, but you weren't able to receive it because something happened, with your coworkers and your daily routine. You could have some health challenges that come up, and so the health challenges that come up, and it costs you more money, 2nd house, that you have to spend on your health unexpectedly. Uranus is here, unexpected things happening. Mars is here, so there's a level of frustration that could come up in this area. Okay. And then when we move to Capricorn, So for the Capricorn with this Sag, so now we have Capricorn rising. So we're going to have okay, let me go back to Sagittarius. Please forgive me. So, and I'm not able to edit this podcast, unfortunately. So for my Sagittarius people, this is sixth house and third, sixth and third. So there will be confrontation with the people that you work with. So we're talking about just being able to, your communication with your coworkers and the challenges coming along with that. With being able to express what it is that you need to say. So you will have Mars in the sixth house, and you will have Mars and Uranus in the sixth, and Saturn and Jupiter in your third house of communication. So yes, so just confrontation coming up with those people that you work with. This is, oftentimes how it is seen, just being able to get along or being challenged, someone challenging your authority, or someone, or you challenging someone's authority at work. So there's just this combative nature that can happen, or it can happen with your siblings or your neighbors or your aunts and uncles. This is third house. So there can be this combative nature about something that you are doing there on your daily routine. Okay, and then when we move to Capricorn, so Capricorns, you will have this in the second. The second house will be Saturn and Jupiter, and then you will have in your fifth house of children, you will have this square with Mars and Uranus there. So with Mars being in the fifth house of children, there can be some kind of challenges related to money. Something happening with your children that may cost you some more money temporarily. You may have to pay out some more money for your child to get some braces, or you may have to pay out more money for them to, join the football team. And so they need so much money for this. So this is a way, and it could be just a frustrating energy that happens, Mars square Saturn. Then when Mars comes to Uranus, some sudden changes that could be happening with your child or for your child that are unexpected. Okay, so this is an area that this can show up. Or if you get pregnant, or, if you have a baby, these expenses, you could see your expenses suddenly going up, costing more than what you had anticipated. If you have a creative project that you are working on, this project can cost you more out of pocket. Second house, you have to spend more money on the creative project that you had anticipated. Okay. And then when we go to Aquarius rising, we have Saturn and Jupiter in your first house. So this is a big deal for you this whole year. And then we have coming into your fourth house, Mars in Taurus. So there are big changes happening in your home, in your whole life. You as a person are changing, and your home. So the fourth house, again, has to do with parents, fathers, your ancestral line. So with Mars being here, there can be challenges that are coming up within the home, the people that live with you, your home life, your family life. There can be frustration just coming from you to those who you live with, or frustration with your parents, disagreements, misunderstandings coming along those lines. But Uranus is here as well in your fourth. So big changes, major changes happening for you this year. But with Mars in particular, it could bring up lots of arguments, lots of frustration, lots of combustible changes happening in the house. So again, you want to make sure that you are not puppet to the planets. because it can bring an opportunity for you to sever relationships. We're talking about Mars, which severs. It can bring an opportunity for you to sever relationships. Now, they may need to be severed. But you want to make sure that you are cautious as to not say something that you might regret, or do something that you might regret, as we talk about Mars being bullish in the sign of Taurus. So we just want to be cautious. Okay, and then when we move to our last sign, which is Pisces, so you will have Saturn and Jupiter in your 12th house, the subconscious house. This is a really challenging place for Saturn to be transiting, because Saturn here brings up a lot of fears, a lot of blockages. But Jupiter is here softening this particular transit, adding some peace and understanding to Saturn's transit here over the next year. And then Mars will come into your third house of siblings. So you may find with Mars squaring Saturn that you have confrontations with your siblings over religious beliefs, over spirituality. You may have combustible conversations that come up that may challenge you, and that could sever relationship. So you want to also be cautious. The 12th house, again, this house of spirituality, Saturn being here. Those conversations that can be argumentative, that can be problematic, where you can say things that deeply wound someone out of fear. Saturn square Mars. And then when Mars comes to Uranus, there can be sudden changes that happen with your siblings. This is something that you could see, within your siblings. A sudden change happens, or sudden change happens with them in their spirituality, what they believe. You may have 1 minute they're Christian, and then they change and become a 5%er, with this particular square. And so this is something that you can see. But it's going to be really important during this transit of Mars that your words, for Pisces, you take caution. Because your words can be very cutting, and they can be very destructive if you find that you become a puppet to the planets. So I thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is Lateesha with Soul Spread Wisdom. You can find me at soulspreadwisdom.com for a personal private reading. I have several types that I offer. And I say to you, Ase 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 O, Yod He Vav He.